At some point, every subscription business makes the same decision. Someone builds a case for automating the billing. The numbers make sense. You eliminate the renewal conversation, the invoice, the follow-up call. Cash flow becomes predictable. Headcount doesn't grow with revenue. And it works. Almost always, it works exactly as designed. What nobody tells you is what you just removed. In 1983, an industry made that decision at scale for the first time. The American gym industry replaced its front desk renewal conversations with silent monthly bank debits and built a model that Wall Street would eventually price like a software company. By 2015, Planet Fitness was public, valued like a technology business. By 2020, the same model had destroyed the very thing it was supposed to protect. This is that story, and it is almost certainly the story of a decision your own business has already made or is about to. To understand how that happens and to know whether your own business is already halfway there, you have to go back to 1962. The American fitness industry has one origin story, and it is a warning. Vic Tanny ran the largest chain of health clubs in the country, 60 locations, $24 million in annual revenue, a success story on the cover of Life magazine. By the early 1960s, it was gone. Prepaid annual memberships, the model Tanny had built the empire on, unraveled the moment renewals slowed. The clubs had sold tomorrow's membership to pay yesterday's rent. And when the members stopped coming back, the chain collapsed within 2 years. The lesson the industry took was this: prepaid is fragile. The lesson it missed was the one underneath. The members had stopped coming back long before they stopped paying. The real problem was never the cash flow curve, it was the retention curve. Most new gym members, in every study ever done of this question, stop attending within 60 to 90 days. They drift out of the habit, they stop noticing the charge. Eventually, they notice, and they leave. For the next 20 years, the industry chased the wrong solution. Cash flow smoothing, payment predictability, front desk efficiency, every operational improvement was aimed at the symptom. None of them were aimed at why the members kept disappearing. Then, in 1983, a man named Mark Mastroff founded 24 Hour Fitness and did something no gym chain had done at scale. He built the entire business on the Automated Clearinghouse, the ACH, the same electronic bank-to-bank transfer network the federal government used to send Social Security checks. Every member, every month, paid automatically. No conversation, no invoice, no choice, unless they actively asked to stop. On paper, this was a cash flow miracle. It was also something else, a decision the industry would spend the next 40 years regretting. The decision had a name, though the industry would not admit it for another 30 years. The Federal Trade Commission would eventually give it one. Negative option billing. It means exactly what it sounds like. Silence is consent. Unless the customer actively does something to stop the charge continues forever. And it is almost certainly a decision some version of which every subscription business operating today has been tempted to make. Mastroff's model spread fast. Bally Total Fitness standardized it across the country in the 1990s. Planet Fitness refined it. No-frills gyms, low monthly price, cancellation only by certified mail or in person. A $58 annual fee charged automatically every year on the membership anniversary. By the 2000s, this was no longer one gym's choice. It was the industry's default operating system. And the numbers looked spectacular. Ghost member economics became the hidden engine. Studies would later estimate that between 63 and 67% of all American gym members did not regularly use their memberships. For the gym, these members were the ideal customer. They paid $20, $30, $40 a month. They consumed no towels, no weights, no floor space, no staff attention. They were pure margin. The old math for member lifetime value had been a simple equation: monthly fee multiplied by the number of months the member actually attended. The new math was different: monthly fee multiplied by the number of months the bank approved the debit, regardless of whether the member ever walked through the door again, plus the annual fee they would be charged before they noticed they needed to cancel. A Ghost member at $20 a month for 28 months, plus a $58 fee, was worth $658. An engaged member who attended for 12 months and left was worth $240. The Ghost was worth almost 3 times the customer. On paper, this was a masterpiece. Cash flow smoothed, labor costs fell, Wall Street priced the model like a software subscription. In August of 2015, Planet Fitness went public at $16 a share and raised $216 million. But there was something they didn't calculate. The cost of the conversation they had just eliminated. Before auto debit, the front desk had been the diagnostic center of the gym. A staff member who saw 200 regulars every week noticed when one of them stopped showing up. A renewal conversation every 30 days was 30 days of early warning about whether a member was drifting. A cancellation request was a savable moment, an offer of a different class, a trainer intro, a program change. The person at the desk was the sensor. The automation did not just replace the billing, it replaced the sensor. And the sensor was the only thing in the system that measured the one thing that actually mattered, whether the member was still coming. Every keycard-equipped gym in America, from the late 1990s onward, already had the data. The turnstile knew a member who skipped 2 consecutive weeks was, in every academic study of gym attrition, Dr. Melvin Hilsden at the University of Exeter, the Spare and Day research, Paul Bedford's retention work, statistically very likely to churn within the next 30 days. The signal was cheap, the signal was clean, the signal was already there. Nobody looked at it. Billing data was the only data anyone in the industry tracked. And billing data said everything was fine, revenue was climbing. Monthly recurring revenue was smooth, the member was still paying. The fact that the member had not swiped in for 19 days, then 41 days, then 90, was invisible to the business precisely because the business had automated the one system designed to see it. This is where the story gets uncomfortable. Paul Bedford's research, the most cited work in the field, documents that a single 5-minute phone call to a member who has lapsed for 2 weeks lifts their 6-month retention from roughly 60% to roughly 87%. One call, 27 points of retention. The infrastructure to make that call existed. The data to know who to call existed. The automation that would have replaced the front desk sensor was already available. The industry automated the billing instead. And for about 10 years, nobody saw what that trade had actually cost. Then COVID arrived, and the model that had looked like financial genius for 30 years was about to show every subscription business in the world what silent revenue actually was. In the first 2 weeks of March 2020, every gym in America closed. The automated debits kept running. Millions of members who had not been to a gym in months, some of whom had forgotten they still had a membership, tried to cancel for the first time. They hit the friction wall the industry had spent 20 years building: certified mail, in-person only, 30-day written notice, annual fees that had just cleared last week. What happened next was not a crisis, it was an exposure. 24-Hour Fitness filed for Chapter 11, bankruptcy in June of 2020. Cancellation complaints were named directly in the filings. The New York Attorney General's office settled with Town Sports International after finding its membership virtually impossible to cancel. Boston Sports Club paid $3.8 million. Complaints to the Federal Trade Commission about gym cancellations rose from roughly 42 per day in 2021 to 70 per day by 2024. Finders Research in 2024 estimated that 5.1 million Americans were paying for gym memberships they never used. $1.8 billion every year. That number is worth sitting with. $1.8 billion is the entire annual revenue of roughly 3,600 independent neighborhood gyms. Every dollar of it was collected from people who would have told you, if you had asked, that they wanted to stop. In October of 2024, the Federal Trade Commission finalized the click-to-cancel rule. Cancellation, the rule said, must be as easy as signing up in the same medium. The subscription industry lobbied hard against it. The rule took effect anyway. In January of 2025, Equinox and SoulCycle settled with New York for $600,000 and $250 of restitution for every member who had been unable to cancel. In August of 2025, the FTC sued LA Fitness. The boutique fitness market, meanwhile, pay-per-class studios, transparent pricing, no long-term contracts, grew into a $48 billion segment. Its entire positioning was a rejection of the auto bill model. The industry that had automated its way to Wall Street was now paying everywhere at once for the one thing it had never bothered to automate. Somewhere between 2000 and 2008, the industry had a choice it did not know it was making. Every keycard-equipped gym already had the data. The member management software existed: Club Solutions, a BC Financial, Jonas Fitness. The tooling was on every front desk in America. What was absent was not technology. It was the decision to point the technology at retention instead of at billing. The same ACH plumbing that drafted a member's monthly fee could have triggered a staff alert the moment that member stopped showing up. The same database that flagged a declined payment could have flagged a 2-week attendance gap. The 5-minute phone call, the single human act that Paul Bedford's research shows lifts retention by 27 points, was a system away. The industry chose the other fork. Not because it was stupid, because billing automation showed up on this quarter's P&L, and retention automation showed up 6 months later in numbers private equity did not grade on. The shortest path to predictable monthly recurring revenue was not a product the customer wanted to stay inside. It was a contract the customer could not get out of. That is the pattern. It has a name now. The Federal Trade Commission calls it negative option billing. The customers call it a scam. The operators call it industry standard. Underneath all three is the same decision, made the same way, for the same reason. It is worth asking how many other industries have quietly made it. 4 questions to sit with. How would you know today whether your recurring revenue reflects engaged customers or silent ones? And which system in your business is actually telling you the difference? What human judgment did your last automation project remove? And can you name the specific signal that judgment used to catch? Do your customers stay because your product is worth it, or because leaving is harder than staying? When you decided to automate, were you ready to automate, or just tired of doing the work manually? If any of those 4 questions left a pause, that pause is the diagnostic. It is what the gym industry did not ask itself for 25 years. It is the difference between automating the right thing and automating the thing that is easiest to measure. Don't click away yet. See that video on my left? Click it right now. The next story shows what happens when a business fixes the right constraint first, or the wrong one. You need to see this. Click that video and keep watching.